Hey guys, here is the process for doing your text portrait overlay, your final advanced editing clipping mask project. The first thing you need to decide is who your subject matter is going to be. It can be an actor with a quote, or maybe their name. It can be a movie star. It can be a character like a superhero with a famous quote of theirs, or I'm going to do a musician with lyrics from a song. So I chose Sam Hunt with one of his newest songs is really stuck in my head, so that's the one I want to do. So all I'm going to start with is a Google search. We are going to actually forget about our free for use guidelines for this project, okay? Because you're not going to be able to find that character that the rights have been given up. But for just this process, it is okay to do so. So I typed in Sam Hunt. I'm going to go to images, and then I need to search tools and large, size large. Make sure you do that first because now every single one of these images will be big enough to edit. So I like this one. It's a nice forward-facing portrait and it's pretty close to his head. If you do a sideways one, it won't work as good, but maybe your crop and where your words are going to be a little different, and you just have to kind of think that through. But a forward-facing kind of direct portrait will be the best, but I also like the background of this one. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one, and then you want to right click your image and either say open in new tab or view image, whatever your option is, and then you can see how big it is, and then you're going to save the image, okay? Or you can download it, okay? You'll either get the option of save as or download, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and save this, and I already have it saved. So now that you have it saved, you're going to open it up in your program. So whether you're using Photopea, you can see I've already opened and cropped, or you're using Photoshop. Okay, so I'm going to show you in Photoshop how I have it opened here. And this is what I'm going to edit in. All right, so here is my image exactly as it was downloaded, opened in the program, and I just want to crop it. So the crop tool looks the same in both programs, but what you need to think about is your ratio. The automatic one that happened here is a square ratio, and that is fine if you want to do a square. A portrait orientation or a 4x5, 8x10 will probably work a little better, but again, it's up to you, and you want to just zoom in really tight to the face. Okay, so I'm going to do that, but then I'm going to drag it around so that he is right in the middle. All right, and I can always go closer after. So once you've got the crop selected, you're going to hit your checkbox, and then we're going to do some editing. Now, we want to have some guidelines to ensure that we are halfway across in the same exact spot every single time. So I'm just zooming in, and now what I'm going to do is view rulers. It is the exact same when you go into Photopea. View rulers. Now the rulers are showing in pixels. That is why the numbers are different, okay? And that's okay because you don't need to know exactly halfway. You just want to try to find the middle of the face. So what you're going to do is you have your move tool selected, and I'm just going to hover over the ruler here. So I'm just on top of the ruler. I'm going to click and drag across, and you'll see this kind of shadow. And then I'm going to let go once I'm on the middle of the face, and it becomes a light blue line. Okay? If you want another one, you just drag across. But I don't want that one, so I'm just going to undo. Okay? You can continue to move this one if you need to. Okay? So if you don't quite let go in the right spot, you can move it afterwards. That's okay. Like I said, same exact thing in Photopea. You're going to go to View, Rulers, click, drag across. Okay? So now that we have our ruler, our guideline, this is our center point. This is where we're going to continually kind of go to. So the first thing you're all going to do is select your rectangular marquee tool and drag across either the left or the right side. What you're going to be copying is the side that you want your text on. So I'm going to do the left side having the words. If you want the right side having the words, then you're going to copy this side. Okay? So I'm just going to drag across, the whole image until I get to the guideline. Your guidelines will actually show pink when you're selecting them, okay? So you can see around the edges and in the middle have all turned pink, and then because I'm doing exactly the center of this image, I had another guide, a smart guide, go through the center horizontally, okay? All right, so now I'm going to release, and you can see the running ants, marching ants across the outline. What you're going to do is copy, Control or Command C, and then paste, Control or Command V. And you won't see anything different happen here, but what you notice is on your layers panel, you'll see the copy happen. Okay? Once you are done with that, you're going to do a background fill layer. So my background is the image. So I'm going to unlock it, cancel, and I'm going to make a new layer and drag it underneath, and this layer I'm just going to fill with black for now. Okay? You can always change the color later. Alright, so that is my background layer. So now what we're going to do is create a layer mask on our background portrait, so our full portrait. Now, before you click the layer mask button, you're going to make a selection so that it auto masks. What I'm going to do is select the opposite side, okay? So not the side I made a copy of, but the other side. So this side was copied, this is the side I'm selecting. I've selected the whole thing all the way up to the guideline, and then I'm going to hit the layer mask button. What you'll notice is it has not changed here because of the copy, but it has masked this side. Okay, so if I uncheck this layer, the visibility, you will see that the black hides the left side of my image, the white shows this side of the image. You will not see the effect if your top layer one, that copy, is visible because you have that half selected and copied, and it will kind of hide the mask. So in order to double check, you want to check the eye here, click the eye, so that you make it invisible, and that way you can see that the side that you want the words on is gone. Okay, so it should be black. Well, whatever color you pick, but we can all start with black for now. Alright, so now that we've gotten that part done, we're going to add our text. So here you need to know what your quote is, and then we're going to fiddle with it in the program. So I had went to my Google search and I looked at the lyrics of the song, and the one line of the song that I really liked is "So much for so long, out of sight, out of mind." And what I can do is I can just copy that and paste it into, oops, I'm in Photopea. And what I can do is click on my text button, and you're just going to click, you don't need to drag anything, just click and either paste your text or type it out. And you'll notice I have black selected, so black text will not show because my background is black. So I'm going to hit Command or Control A to select everything, and then I'm just going to hit the arrows to reverse the color so now it's white. And you will see the quote show. So now what I need to do is play with the spacing and the line breaks and the full size. So I'm just going to click in my quote, and I want a break here and a break here, and I might need to break that up a little more because that first line's a bit long, but before I get there I'm going to increase the size so it's a little easier to judge. So I'm thinking that is a little better. Now, what you want to do is align the text to the image. So if my text were on the right half, this would be good. But since my text is on the left half, I'm going to click the Justify Right button. And that will move everything over, and now it will align next to him. Again, this is not really tall enough, so I think I need to continue working and spacing out my text. I also need a nice bold font because I want to be able to see his face through it. So this skinny one will not work. So go through and pick a nice bold font that you enjoy. And you don't have to use this one. Impact is a really great one, but I want you to also think about whether or not you want all capitals or if you want a mix of capitals and lowercase. Now, if you go into your character panel, so the A, if you don't have it, you can go to Window and Character. And the way you can really enhance your text is in here. So I can make it even bolder by clicking this. I can make it italicized by clicking this. I can make it auto caps by clicking this. And this one kind of makes them all caps, but plays with sizing. So you'll see that the first letter, the capital S that was a capital, has remained bigger than the other ones. And this one makes them all the same. Okay, so this is definitely one that I like better. And I don't really need it to be fake bold because the font is already pretty bold. So that is better. And I'm going to increase this to 100. And then again, play with my line breaks. So I'm going to have so much on one line for so long. This is what's going to take you the longest, honestly, because every quote is different and you need to make it match your person. So I'm going to drag this up a little bit because it was too close to the bottom for me to see what I was doing. And there we go. Now every time you do a line break, make sure that you delete the space beforehand. You can see I delete and then I hit return, because if I don't and I have a space there and then I hit return, it's not going to line up to the side here because now there's a space here and I need to make sure that it's all the way justified to the right. So make sure you press delete before you hit return. Otherwise you'll have to go back and do that. So much for so long, out of sight, out of mind. And I think a period will work because there's commas and I don't really like that there's not a period at the end. Now some of the quotes in the example had the name down here. So if that's something that you want to add, then you surely can. Okay, but what you need to make sure is that it's actually on the same layer, because if I were to, let me just kind of preview what's going to happen. If I were to make this a clipping mask, it's not going to affect Sam Hunt because it's on a separate layer. Okay, so I'm going to undo that, make him invisible again, and I'm going to grab that text and I'm just going to cut and I'm going to paste it into this same layer. Okay, now if you don't like the spacing here because there's too much, then you can decrease the size of this. Okay, and oops, I got to highlight. You can highlight and then make it smaller and it will make it closer. You can also make his name smaller as long as you highlight it. Then the artist or character's name can be made smaller, and that is just a little bit nicer. Now I'm going to delete layer 3, my old text layer, because I don't need that anymore. And I'm just going to really go ahead and check and make sure everything's spelled correctly. I'm okay with the font. It fills the face space well, and you can leave a little negative space over here because there's negative space over here. But if you want and you don't like that, then you can crop in closer. So I can even take my crop in a little closer. Oops. So that way it kind of matches a little better. So now there's less space over here because there's just a little space over here. So that definitely works better. All right. Now I don't really like how much space is on top compared to the bottom. So I'm just going to grab my move tool and drag this layer up a little bit. And I kind of like that Sam Hunt is aligned to right underneath his chin. That spacing is not quite equal, but it's a little bit better. All right, so now once you get all of those steps done, you have a black layer, you have your background image with a layer mask, you have your text, and then you have that pre-copied layer. Now you're ready to do the clipping mask, and you already saw me do a quick preview of that. So I'm going to make this visible again, and you'll see your text disappear. You're just going to right click on your layer and say create clipping mask. And now, if something doesn't quite work, maybe the text doesn't hit a good area, then you can rearrange it. So I'm going to take my text layer and I'm going to make sure the move tool is selected and I'm going to nudge it. Okay? And you can continue to move it. Now, a tip, if you're seeing too much space, which I kind of am, highlight, go to your character panel, and this A right here with the line spacing button, the arrow that goes up and down, that shows line spacing, play with that one. My text is at 100, so anything less than 100 will make your words closer together. That is obviously too close, so I'm going to try 90. And they're still really overlapped, so I'm going to try 100. And that actually works perfectly. Okay, so they're right onto each other. Oops, this comma is going down to my eye, so I don't like that. So let's try 110. I'm going to go back to auto. Okay, so auto is bigger than 110. So this one's working a little differently. But I'm going to go back to 110 because it does make them a smidge closer, so that's better. All right, and I don't really like that I'm not getting any of his head in there, or the top of the hairline, so I think I'm going to delete and return, and that way I have kind of wrong layer selected. That way I kind of have following the head shape. All right, so grab your layer that you want to move, and I'm going to use the arrows because what's happening is I keep grabbing layer 1 because it's visible. And I have smart layer on. Alright, so I was using the arrows and nudging, and that's a little bit too high. I don't like how low the name is, so I'm going to delete the space there, and then I'm going to go ahead and move it back down so that the so is just at his hair. There we go. So much for so long, out of sight, out of mind. That works much better. Long and out, a little bit iffy, but out of mind fits his face really well, so I'll deal with that. And then I've got that little gap with his name down below. So overall, I think that that's much better. All right, so now I'm looking at this, and the words work pretty well. The spacing is good. The black is a little bit intense because this right side of the image is so bright and cheery. So I'm going to see what happens if I just auto pick one of these colors and fill my layer 2 with this color. It's a lot brighter, a lot cheerier, but it makes it really hard to see the L, O, and O of these words because there's not enough contrast. So what I'm going to do is just play with the color picker, and maybe I need to go darker, and then I'm just going to fill and see what that does. Okay, maybe I want to try something that's a little bit more red. It's getting better, but still it's kind of contrasting with the colors in his face, and it's not super easy to read. Let me try the blue, the bluish purple, and see if that's better. Definitely better in regards to the contrast here, but again, the L-O-O is pretty difficult to read. So now what I'm going to do is go into the darker category, and it's definitely auto-picked a more purple tone, which is fine. And that's much better. Okay, so overall I think I like that color, but don't stop and settle. Maybe you need to mix it up totally and go with the blue of his shirt. Maybe you liked black because you couldn't make a decision. That's fine, okay? Whatever color you're picking is a-okay. Now, in some of your images, they really didn't have a background. It was kind of all made into just the face. So that is something that you can still do. If you take your background layer and you have your layer mask, you'll notice that the white side is what's showing. So if you take your black paintbrush, you can actually paint over that background, especially if it's really distracting. My background was not, and I wasn't originally planning on doing this, but I just really don't like the contrast between the two sides. So now what I'm going to do is just kind of go over the background and erase that. Now, when you get close to the hair, it's a little bit tricky to make it look natural because it's such a hard brush edge that I'm using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm actually going to correct that. But because we're not using the eraser, because we're using a layer mask, it's so easy to go back and fix those mistakes. So I'm just going to reverse and make sure I have white selected, and then I'm going to change my brush to have a soft edge, make it a little smaller, and feel free to zoom in. Oop. And just carefully go around. And now maybe you want the white halo effect. It's not really white, it's pink of the background. But I'm going to go back with my black and clean that up a little bit after I look at it, because I might end up liking this. We'll see. Okay, so I'm just going carefully around him, especially where I cut off parts that I want to keep. And let's zoom out and see what that does. That's pretty cool. When you get close to the edge, you've got to zoom in real close and tight, so that way you don't get rid of stuff you don't want to. Alright, but that is my finished picture.